Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Lucy Bolger. I'm a senior lecturer in the team here at Melbourne University Music Therapy, and I'm here to welcome you and thank you very much for agreeing to be part of our supporting team, supervising our students while they're on their independent placements this semester with you all. This video is to give you a little bit of information to get you prepared for what it might mean to have a music therapy student. And to introduce myself, I'm the subject coordinator for the independent placement subject. So I'll be supporting the learning that is happening on site with you through class-based learning and supervision with our students here on campus. And I'm a contact point for you alongside our fantastic placement coordinators, Meg and Jody, who you might have already heard from. So I want you to be able to put a face to a name and to know that you're welcome to reach out to me at any point if you need to along the way. So before we start, I just want to really extend my gratitude to you all for your willingness to support our students' education. I hope that they bring some really important value to your institutions, sharing music therapy alongside the learning that we really hope that they will achieve in this time. So thank you for being a part of this for us. They could not learn how to become music therapists without working with health and community and education institutions to get this in-person learning. So we're really grateful for the contribution that you all make. This video is going to be brief, but we'll give you a little bit of an overview about some of the key things that will be a part of your role as a supervisor, and will hopefully direct you towards some of the key elements of supervision that will be your role with students this semester. Before I get started, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm joining you from today. I'm here on South Bank campus, and I want to pay my respects to the elders of the Bunurong, Boonwurrung and Woiwurrung communities of the Kulin Nation. I want to recognise the long, extending tradition of arts and health that has been a part of these lands through Indigenous culture for thousands of years, and to recognise that sovereignty of this place was never ceded. So moving from there, I'm going to share a bit of a PowerPoint with you, and just to orient you a little bit to what's going to be happening for those of you who are new to placements with our group. Okay, so as you can see here, our names. My name's Dr. Lucy Bolger, and I work together with Dr. Megan Steele and Jody Arnott as the placement coordination and team that you'll be liaising with. Any questions that you have, you're welcome to reach out along the way. Today, we're just going to introduce myself. That's already done. Speak a little bit about what your role will be before, during, and after placements, and just share some of the learning objectives and outcomes for the student placement, so you know what our expectations are of what they're going to learn and achieve, and to give you some dates to remember and remind you of the student placement manual that will be attached to an email arriving in your inbox either alongside this link or very soon. So, as placement supervisors, before placement, there are a couple of logistical things that we ask for you to do. These are really important preliminary steps that need to occur before we can really get started in the placement. Hopefully they don't take too much time and are quite straightforward, and they'll be accompanied by emails from the University of Melbourne with guiding instructions on how to achieve these steps. So we ask that you sign the legal agreement from the University of Melbourne that governs the placement overall. We can't have students on site until that is signed. So we ask that when that arrives in your inbox, you'll be receiving it in the next month, that you do sign that in a timely way and get it back to us so that we can progress from there. We ask that you check any site-specific immunisation or legal checks. So if you have specific vaccination requirements, or you need to look at someone's working with children's check, we've done our best to make sure that students have all of those things in place as best that we know, but it is your responsibility as an on-site supervisor. If there are specific requirements that you need to cite at your site, can you please make sure that you check in with your student around that and make sure that you have viewed those as well. We also ask you to please log into Sonia. So Sonia is the placement coordination portal that we have, where we communicate with the placement supervisors, where all of the documentation and assessments and such things are. So you will receive a login And it's quite straightforward to follow through the prompts and to log in using the username that is usually your email address that we have been communicating with you through, and set up your Sonia portal. That's a way that you'll be able to progress the students' learning through the system and sign off on things like their hours. Our students are very familiar with working with their supervisors using Sonia, so they can be helpful in helping to navigate it if it's a bit confusing. And of course, you're welcome to reach out to us if you need as well. And we'd ask that you do communicate with our students to confirm logistics prior to starting. Our students have been advised to do that as well, but it is a bit of a two-way street. So making sure that your expectations are aligned with students around when you expect them to be arriving, that would be a fantastic thing. Once they're on placement, our students are in their final semester, so we do expect them to be quite independent and capable and familiar with working in different sites, confident to speak with people and gain information and access where needed. That being said, usually they do require some orientation on site, and part of your role as supervisor is to be the on-site contact person, the person who they can go to if something isn't working out, or if they can't access a certain space, or if there's a system or a process that's not clear to them. So it's usually helpful to have an orientation to the site where you can show them where the bathrooms are, you can show them where they can get a coffee or leave their things securely. If they have access needs or if there are access requirements within the facility, you can share those as well. So orient them to the site and sometimes give them some guidance around program setup. This can be things like knowing how to engage in referrals, or maybe making connections for them with important referral sources, like introducing them to nurses or introducing them to family members, or showing them how to navigate the space. That would be really helpful. Then we do request that on a semi-regular basis, you set up a sort of plan for some on-site supervision. So usually over the course of 12 weeks, which is an approximate time frame for placements, we would expect you to meet with the student semi-regularly to make sure that they are on track and that they are behaving and interacting in the space in a way that is suitable. And also for them to bring any of the kind of place-based questions that are around what's happening in the facility or incidences that they need to process further. So this generally works best when there is a set allocated time. It would depend on your workplace, whether it's something that you would do as a regular check-in an hour or so a week, depending on how often they're there, or if it's something that happens every second week for some time with some touch bases in between. But it is useful to have something in place to make sure things are keeping on track along the way, and to check in on any understandings that need to be sort of navigated along the way. And then at 2 points in the placement, there are mid and late placement feedback to be done. Before I speak about feedback, I just alongside the supervision that they will be receiving from you, they are provided with supervision through the university as well. And so they do have peer supervision groups that are supervised by a music therapist that they engage in at points throughout semester. And they also have access to me as a music therapist as well, who they can have one-on-one supervision with if they like. So if there are any things that you think, I really can't help you with this, this is a very music therapy specific thing, and I'm not a music therapist, that's totally fine. You can direct them to me and say, maybe this is something you need to bring up with your, this feels very music therapy specific. Maybe you should bring this up with your music therapy subject coordinator. But for all of the other elements of being a healthcare professional and working in a workplace, and all of navigating and understanding the particular client group that they are working with, your expertise as healthcare professionals and coordinators in those spaces is really what we expect to draw on. And this is very similar to what music therapists in real world scenarios are dealing with. So often their mentors, peers and supervisors, when they get out in the world, will not be music therapists. So you have lots to offer as a supervisor without music therapy training. And we hope that our students have the opportunity to learn from you and share their ideas as well. Now, moving on to mid and late placement feedback. At 2 separate points during semester, there will be a feedback document that is in your in your Sonia portal, and we ask you to sit down with the student and provide some formal feedback. And that feedback is qualitative, it's descriptive feedback of what you've noticed. And sometimes our non-music therapy supervisors say, I'm not sure about this because I don't have music therapy training. And that's true. But there are many things about being a healthcare professional that are shared across different disciplines. We're not expecting you to evaluate their capacity in music therapy skills and techniques. That's our job. But we do ask that you give feedback about, are they using music appropriately in the space? Does it feel too loud sometimes? Or does it feel like they are introducing and navigating group development or whatever's going on in a way that is appropriate for your setting? So we're not asking you to comment on things that you don't feel equipped to offer feedback on, but there are many generalized skills that are in the placement feedback document that we invite your feedback on. We are the ones who do provide an ultimate grade for the student based on a series of assessments incorporating your feedback. But we do very much use and draw on the feedback from our supervisors as one of the ways that we determine a student's readiness for practice. So we highly value your constructive and straightforward feedback at those two time points. Then after placement, there are just a couple of things that we do require of you at the end. One is to confirm the student's placement hours in Sonia. They do need to have completed a certain number of hours to be eligible to register with the Australian Music Therapy Association. So we do ask that you confirm their placement hours so that we can graduate them with those registration formalities in place. And we also ask that you invoice the university for your daily supervision honorarium. And the honorarium is really to recognise that your time is valuable and that you make a huge contribution to our students' learning. And so this honorarium is a way of recognising that with a daily honorarium fee. So the university accounting group or finance group will send you some information about how that can be done, and there will be a daily stipend to give you towards that. So those are the two things that are completed after the completion of the placement is done. There are times where things on placement don't go to plan or something. There is a need for us to do some support to facilitate and discuss concerns about a student or with a student. So I just want to remind you of the different avenues there are available to you. One of them being your supervision moments, where students are used to listening to and engaging with constructive criticism and will be willing and prepared to be having constructive conversations with you. There's also incidental feedback and formal feedback opportunities, like your check-ins each week, and also your mid and late placement assessments that I just spoke earlier about. And just a reminder that if things do feel like they are not manageable in-house, that this is a kind of concern that requires further input, you're welcome to reach out to me at any time. Part of my job is to navigate these kinds of things, and the more timely way that we do that, the better. So I welcome you to reach out if any concerns, you feel there are any concerns that need to be raised. Just to give you a bit of an insight into where students are at in their learning, we are now in their final semester, so they are almost ready to leave us and go out in the world as fully fledged music therapy practitioners. And so with that in mind, you can have an expectation that they will be ready to get in there and get some work done, and that they can operate quite independently. There is not a need for you to be in their sessions with them all the time, although you're welcome to come and check in on how they're doing, of course. This subject is the MT Prac 4 subject, which is our practice stream, which is where we sort of integrate all the learning from our theory methods and research subjects, and we bring it into real world scenarios and learn how professional practice is enacted in the world. At this point, we are looking towards building their skills to work independently in teams, achieving a really high level of ability in applying contemporary theory into practice, and also learning how to evaluate and communicate about that. So there's quite a it's kind of a final level of learning. So they have done SimPrac, where they've learned foundational skills. They have worked in several other contextual settings with a high level of specialised music therapy supervision, and they are now moving into working independently with an independent caseload, preparing them for understanding, taking responsibility for all elements of the therapy process. And that's what they'll be doing with you. Overall, our expectation is that the students will develop and consolidate the skills that are listed here. So these learning objectives can be useful for you to know about in terms of giving them feedback. I'll send you this list as well so that you'll have access to it in the form of these slides. If you're interested in knowing how you can support feedback learning, we do understand that what this looks like is very different in different settings. And so I don't want you to feel daunted about how this is done, and to really use your intuition on what kind of feedback is important for you to share in your setting. So typically each placement is 8 hours long. And although this changes in different settings, so don't be alarmed if you have a different setup, that's completely fine. But what we want to say is that this is supposed to integrate all the elements of the workday. So that includes things like preparing, reading, doing planning and observing what might be happening, as well as implementing sessions and taking notes. And so all the elements of practice that you would expect to undertake as an allied health professional within your workday, these are the kinds of things we would be incorporating. So we don't expect students to do all of that in their own time and then just work solidly on only implementing music therapy sessions throughout the day, because that is not a realistic way that an independent caseload in real world work works. So we want them to learn how to do all those elements of practice, those soft skills and those interpersonal elements, the communication and the best practice note taking, as well as the nuts and bolts of doing music with people, which is what we're really about. And so a reminder that placement days will be occurring predominantly between the 22nd of July and the 19th of October, which is our university semester, and that we usually expect there to be 20 days or 160 hours that is completed during that time. If you have discussed alternative dates or planned for alternative dates, that's fine. You just need to make sure that the university is aware of that, because it can impact students' graduation. The other dates for the feedback forms are as follows. We've got week 6 and week 12, and that is 30th of August and the 18th of October. Students are quite familiar with reminding supervisors about this and locking those in, because it is important to them to get that feedback so that they can speak to it in their final assignment. So if there's been a different timeline approved for you, then it's good to know that placement between placement days 8 and 10, halfway, that's when new placement feedback happens, or between placement days 16 to 20 is when your late placement feedback happens. We do ask that the late placement feedback is not necessarily at the very end of the thing. It can be a couple of weeks before the end of the placement. That's usually an ideal time, because it gives students a chance to integrate that while they're still winding up their work and finalising any elements of the work, and it helps them to be prepared for their final assignment as well. Here's just a little screenshot here of the music therapy supervisor placement manual. It gives you a lot of information about the subjects that this placement is a part of and what student learning is, and it's just a nice reference go-to guide. It holds a lot of the information we've spoken about in this video, and it also gives you even more information about the students' assessments and what they'll be doing in their academic work at the university as well. So you'll have a copy of that. Please use it as a reference, and please, again, reach out to me if there's anything I can do to help. Here are my contact details here, and we just really want to thank you very much for your time and your investment in our students. We hope that it is mutually beneficial. We hope that your clients, your patients, your residents, whatever the right frame for thinking about the people you work with, really enjoy having our students on site and get a taste for what music therapy can offer. And we really appreciate and value the time and effort that you're putting into supporting our students. Thank you for your time.